So hello and welcome. This is Erica Glessing, and I am delighted to have with me today Dr. Pamela Moss. Welcome, Pamela.
So glad to be here, Erica. Thanks for having me.
I know. So we're talking about releasing judgment on the summit this year. I have the beautiful new book, The Power of Releasing Judgment, which asks no less for a summit to celebrate its birth. And I went, oh, that's really interesting. A summit, huh?
Uh-huh.
And so Pamela is kind enough to bring some stories and insight into releasing judgment and kind of how that ties into having your life work. So yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
I
That
will.
artist studio behind you.
Well, I am an artist as more of my former business than what I'm doing right now as the soul guide, but it still informs me, so it's appropriate, I guess.
Right.
So yeah, I want to share a couple stories from my own life, and if I have time, there's one from a client I just worked with yesterday, which are very showing me what judgment looks like. So the first thing I want to say for people is most of the time we don't realize we have judgment. If we realize it, it's a lot easier to start to do some work with it. But a lot of the time we are not aware that we have judgment. It just seems like it's true. So it doesn't occur as a judgment. So one of the examples where I saw that which is funny in hindsight, but was really painful for quite a long time is like 3 years ago, I had this, what I thought was my dream life. I had this perfect apartment. It was gorgeous. I just come into some money. I was doing really well in my business. And then everything started, and I met my soulmate, not the small extra thing. I met my soulmate on my first 29 years. On the very first day, I knew it was him. He knew it was me. And we've just carried on ever since. But things in my life, just where I lived was a town I'd lived in for 23, no, longer than that, like almost 28 years, a long time. I was really happy and settled. I knew everybody. And life was pushing me out. Like all these different groups I've been part of just fell apart. And like my gone, mastermind group disappeared, my dance group gone. Like it was amazing, like one thing after another. And I realized that for a whole bunch of reasons, I wanted to live with my soulmate. He lived in a different town an hour away. And it just made sense more and more that I should go live with him. And I was terrified to do that because it meant leaving my community of so many years.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And he works a lot and so on. So I was really scared to go. And I was also quite sure there'd be none of my people there.
Wow.
and that I'd be all alone. And so I had a lot of judgments. I wasn't even thinking them as judgments. I thought that was true. This is the middle of the country. I'm going to be alone a lot. I'm a very As I say, the town of Binghamton, not known for its enlightened and spiritually aware people. So I went there, and my judgments were so powerful that, long story short, I ended up really just getting physically very sick. Like this is what happens when stories that are poisonous to your system. And I was telling myself I'm all alone, and there's no one here who understands me, and I have no community, and blah, 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 like on and on. I ended up getting so sick, I went to the hospital. I mean, like I was actually like putting my whole life in danger without realizing it because of this judgments I had about where I was and how I'd messed up things. And just as a little side story, I'd gotten into a big debt, which for a retreat I did where I signed a contract I shouldn't have signed. And so all these things are going on, life crashing down. And I ended up in the hospital. And when I came out, I did come out, on the other side of that, I just sort of floating around like, who am I? Like, I don't even know who I am in this new environment, in this new context. But what that showed me is I'd actually released some judgment I didn't realize I even had, because I stopped thinking there was something wrong with where I was and the people around me or lack of people around me. It started deeply just questioning, who am I?
Wow.
And what ended up happening was my stories about myself really got shaken loose in a very profound way. And I realized that who I think I am, like the biggest judgment we have really is the judgment we have of ourselves and who we think we are. The story we wrap our whole identity around.
Yeah.
And in this process, I peeled all that away. Not that I signed up and said, please peel my ego away. But at some level I did. I really wanted to awaken another level. Apparently it took like a major, boom, to my whole identity and community and everything else to do that. But when I came out the other side, what I started to realize, as soon as I started realizing who I am is a lot like not dependent on my community or my bank account or even my lover or anything. Like who I am is not defined by circumstances. And when I got to that point, I was able to look around my environment and start like not staying just at home by myself going, wah, and to go out in the community. And lo and behold, one of the first places I went was a yoga studio, which I saw something on their website about their bringing enlightenment to the summit. I want to go meet those people. Turns out they were the hub of a whole community. So what basically,
oh my gosh,
it was really kind of amazing, Eric. I have to tell you, within a matter of maybe a month or two, I had community, not just one community, but a number of communities. And community is very important to me. And lasting friends and people who are really important to me. So it's incredibly powerful to, first of all, realize we have judgment, which I didn't realize until I
well, and it's interesting you bring this up, because one of the things that comes out in the book a lot is like your point of view creates your reality.
Yes.
Not the other way around.
Yes.
So we think as we have our points of view about things, is there anything that we have a point of view about that's actually a lie? And is there anything, and basically if we look back in our childhood, almost everything told to us was a lie, even though it could have been well-meaning. I mean, sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't.
It's also whatever we told ourselves, because things happen to us and we made them mean something about us, because that's what a small child does. Somebody says something or something happens and we decide, oh, I'm bad. Or,
exactly. One of my other calls this morning, it was like, anytime you hear there's only this way to do this or that, that's a pretty much clear going to be a judgment and a lie.
Yeah, no, it's true. The rigidity and the this or that duality kind of way of looking at life is from the world of judgment.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I'm sorry, this morning the time changed. And so by 6 o'clock I had to wake up at 4:30 because it was like 5, now 6, because the time changed yesterday.
Well, I totally understand. I just salute you for trooping onward despite.
So tell us a little bit. I think you might have like one more story for us, and then be sure to tell us how we can find you and where we can, connect with you and all that yummy stuff. So I think you have one more story, though. I could sort of hear it. It's kind of safe.
I do want to tell you. So the other story has to do, there's so much I could say, but the other story has to do also with an experience that I had, which was also this is now like about a few months ago, basically about 5 or 6 months ago instead of several years ago. And this one was, I was doing a lot of work around money in my business because I'd had this flow for a while and it just sort of was drying up. I was like, what is going on here? And I know I could look for external reasons, but I knew it was something in me. And it was what it was. It was time to do some work on my money story. Not that I thought I had a money story, but I did.
Wow.
This is really powerful for people too. When we have a relationship to money, just like we have a relationship to people. And if we have a story about our relationship to money that is, how shall we say, disempowering, that really affects how our lives show up, how money shows up in our lives. So I realized in the course of doing this work that my story about money was like a fairy tale. It was called Cinderella and the Ogre. Cinderella was poor me in my early days as an entrepreneur, trying to make a business, and the ogre was my husband, who was very not supportive. Although he's a good guy, but he just scared of what I was doing, and it seemed like him like a crazy thing. And this story, which I thought I'd separated from my former husband, I'm married to my new husband, I thought I was all done with that story, but I didn't realize it was still operating, that I still felt like Cinderella, like I had to work really, really hard and never, how do I want to say this? Like it's a struggle. It's a great struggle. The resentment I had, the judgments I had in my former husband, who I really thought I'd given up all this, but I hadn't, and they were still operating my business. And when I let that story go, really let it go, like saw the truth that it was a story I made up and not some reality, and I don't need to carry it anymore, let go of all that judgment, then it was really quite remarkable what happened dramatically. I went from having, I remember like $200 in my bank account at that point. It just was scary low. I've never ever gone that low. But I allowed myself to go down to that point while I did this work and just get to peace with like, I'm okay with that. And then the next month, that was in the November going into December into January, I had an $18,000 month. It was quite dramatic how doing that shifted things. I mean, there was some things I did, but I wasn't able to do them while I still had that story in place.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I love that story, Pamela. And I had a similar thing. I was reading someone. I was doing one of my psychic readings, and I was shown she had come from a lot of money. And I was shown she changed her story from I have a lot of money to I'm someone who had money who lost money.
Yep, different story.
And then she kept saying, well, I came from money, but I lost it. I was given this and I lost it. And so she kept repeating the story.
Yes.
But I could see, in that seeing the wealth.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, every single time you conjure up the poverty story, you're shifting everything back.
Yep.
And it was so fascinating to me because in my mind's eye, when I wasn't attached at all to the outcome and I didn't know her money story at all, but when I sat there and I could see in my mind's eye what was happening in her life, so immediately, like she sent me a picture like 3 weeks later of a beautiful dining room table setting in her house with her beautiful china and her beautiful silver, which she'd inherited that she'd forgotten about.
I forgot about it because it didn't fit with her story. Yes.
Yeah, like she forgot the silver spoon, Yeah. I was like, you were essentially born with genetic code that says wealth and you're rejecting it. Yes. I'm like, I didn't get born with that genetic code. I'm jealous. I'm like, I got to manufacture my own code.
It's funny. I know. It's so funny. And it's really quite remarkable when we get ourselves out of our own way. Even if we weren't born into it or whatever, we do have access because we are creators and because we are visionaries and because we have the capacity to create whatever we desire when we aren't stopping ourselves and letting ourselves down.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's the truth. And it's basically, that's all there is to do in life, I really think, is to love one another and remove our resistance to what there is.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by this summit. I'm so joyful that we said yes to this. I can tell people like your website and how they can find you because you're so much fun to work with.
I'd love to connect with people, and I can help you really remove your resistance. It's my favorite thing to do is just uproot it completely so you're free.
And where do we find you?
The best place to find me is at thesoulguide.com, which is my website. If you go there, I have 4 gifts for you, which are some ways to access your own guidance and some helpful videos, and also the opportunity to apply to receive a Grow Your Dreams discovery session with me, which is where we dive in and see very precisely, we diagnose exactly what your blocks are and exactly what you need to do to move through them. So you'll leave with a very clear plan.
Yay! Thank you so much.
Erica, I love connecting with you. It's always a joy.